It started like any other quiet afternoon. The sun was gently pouring through the curtains, the kind of calm that makes you feel everything is under control. I had just made myself a cup of coffee when the doorbell rang. It was my landlord, Mrs. Thompson, an older woman, maybe in her late 40s, always dressed sharp and always a little too friendly. I'd just moved into the apartment a month ago, and she had been checking in often, saying she wanted to make sure everything was working fine. But deep down, I knew her visits were about more than just leaky faucets and broken switches. At first, I didn't think much of it. She was just being nice, right? Offering help, sharing meals, even bringing over a bottle of wine once or twice. But as days passed, things got blurry. She started getting more comfortable, lingering longer, sitting closer, laughing louder at my jokes than they deserved. And I didn't stop her. I guess part of me liked the attention. Living alone in a new city wasn't easy, and having someone who actually noticed me felt good. Still, I should have seen the signs. The way she touched my arm when she talked. The way she looked at me when I wasn't looking. And that day, when she came in and said she had something urgent to discuss about the lease, I didn't question it. We sat down, and she started talking, but not about the apartment. She asked about my past relationships. My routines. Whether I was seeing anyone. It was subtle, but her tone had shifted. The air felt heavier. I should have stood up, made an excuse, and walked away. But I didn't. We weren't doing anything wrong, at least not yet. But the way she looked at me that day, I could feel the boundaries slipping. And I didn't stop it. I didn't push her away when she moved closer on the couch. I didn't say no when she placed her hand on mine. And that's when the door opened. It was like the world froze. My girlfriend stood at the entrance, her eyes wide, her hand still on the doorknob. She hadn't told me she was coming. I had no idea she'd even be in town. She just stood there, looking at the two of us, and the silence in the room was louder than anything I'd ever heard. My landlord immediately pulled her hand away, but the damage was done. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. My girlfriend didn't say a word either. She just turned around and walked out. That was the moment everything changed. I knew I had just lost something I might never get back. And the worst part? I still don't know if it was really an accident, or if some part of me had let it happen. But what happened next, that's the part no one ever saw coming. I stood frozen in the middle of the living room, heart pounding, brain scrambling for something, anything, to explain what had just happened. My landlord, suddenly quiet, stood up and smoothed out her blouse like nothing had happened. I should go, she said quickly, avoiding eye contact. And just like that, she walked out the door, leaving me alone with the heavy silence, and the image of my girlfriend's stunned face burned into my memory. Her name was Alyssa. We'd been together for almost 2 years. She knew me better than anyone else, or at least I thought she did. And until that moment, I believed I knew myself too. We had been long distance for a few months because of her job. When she left for New York, we promised to make it work. Late-night calls, surprise care packages, plans to visit each other, it all felt like enough. Until it wasn't. After she left, the apartment started to feel different. Empty, quiet, a little too quiet. And that's when Mrs. Thompson's visits started feeling like a lifeline. I didn't want to admit it at the time, but I'd been lonely. The kind of lonely that makes you second-guess everything. The kind that makes a friendly face feel like home, even when it shouldn't. Still, Alyssa had never stopped being in my life. We texted every day, video called most nights, and even started planning a trip together. That's why her sudden appearance that day felt like fate was setting a trap I didn't even see coming. I didn't hear from her for 2 days after she walked out. No texts. No calls. I tried messaging her, just small things, trying not to sound desperate. Are you okay? Can we talk? Please. But nothing came back. The hardest part was not knowing what she was thinking. Did she believe something actually happened? Or was the sight of me with another woman enough on its own? Either way, something was broken now, and I didn't know if it could be fixed. Meanwhile, I started noticing strange things around the apartment. A pair of earrings that weren't Alyssa's. A message slipped under my door that read, "You should have been more careful." My phone rang one night, and when I picked up, no one spoke. Just breathing. That's when I realized, maybe this wasn't just about what happened on that couch. Maybe someone didn't want things to stay quiet. And maybe, it wasn't just a coincidence that Alyssa showed up when she did. The more I thought about that note under my door, the more unsettled I became. It wasn't Alyssa's handwriting. She never played games like that. And if she had something to say, she'd say it to my face. But this felt different. Like someone was watching, waiting, pushing things behind the scenes. I started going over everything again in my head, every conversation with Mrs. Thompson, every little detail I might have missed. I remembered one night, maybe a week before Alyssa showed up, when Mrs. Thompson mentioned something odd. She casually asked if my girlfriend had any plans of dropping by unexpectedly. At the time, it seemed like small talk. But now, it felt loaded. How would she know something like that? Unless she'd been digging, or worse, talking to someone she shouldn't have. Then came another twist I didn't see coming. I got a message from an unknown number. No name, just a single photo. It was of me and Alyssa, months ago, sitting together at a park, smiling, happy. The message read, "She deserves the truth." My hands went cold. Who was sending these? And what was their goal? To ruin my relationship? Or was this some strange way of pushing me to confess something that hadn't even happened? I tried reaching out to Alyssa again. Still no response. I messaged one of her friends, Megan, just to check if she was okay. Megan replied hours later with a short message, "She's hurt. Confused. And honestly? She's not sure what to believe right now." Meanwhile, Mrs. Thompson acted like nothing had happened. She waved when we crossed paths in the hallway. Even asked if I needed anything for the apartment. But something about her smile had changed. It wasn't warm anymore. It was knowing. Like she had all the pieces, and I was the one stuck trying to catch up. I started feeling paranoid in my own home. I'd catch shadows moving outside the window. My doorbell rang one night, and when I looked through the peephole, no one was there. Every little sound set me on edge. The line between reality and suspicion was starting to blur. And the more I tried to untangle the mess, the more it felt like someone else was pulling the strings. Someone who didn't just want to break us apart, but wanted something much deeper. Something I hadn't figured out yet. I couldn't sleep anymore. Every creak in the hallway, every faint sound from the apartment above made my chest tighten. The tension was constant, like something was always just about to happen. I started checking the locks twice at night. I even covered the peephole, just in case someone was watching from the other side. This wasn't just about a misunderstanding with Alyssa anymore, this was something bigger, something darker. Then, one evening, I found my door slightly open when I got home. Nothing was missing. Nothing broken. But someone had definitely been inside. A half-finished glass of water sat on the kitchen counter. My bedroom light was on. And there, sitting on the couch, was a single envelope. No name. No return address. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a printed message, "You can lie to her, but not to yourself." And tucked behind the paper was a USB drive. I stared at it for hours before finally plugging it into my laptop. There was only one video file. I hit play, and my heart dropped. It was footage of me and Mrs. Thompson, from the day Alyssa walked in. The camera angle was high, like from a smoke detector or a corner of the ceiling. Someone had recorded us. Every second. even the moment Alyssa opened the door and froze. It was all there. I didn't know what to think. Who was recording? How long had this been going on? And more importantly, who was sending it? I pulled the plug, ripped the USB out, and just sat there, staring at it. My thoughts were racing. Was Mrs. Thompson behind this? Or was she just another piece in someone else's game? Later that night, I got another message. This one from Alyssa. Just 5 words, "We need to talk. Now." My heart jumped. Was this my chance to explain? Or was she just coming to end things? I cleaned up the apartment the best I could, pacing non-stop until I heard a knock. I rushed to the door, expecting her. But it wasn't Alyssa. It was Megan. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "There's something you don't know. And you need to hear it from me, before it's too late." That's when everything started to unravel. All the silence. All the strange messages. Every loose end was about to come crashing down. I stepped back, stunned, letting Megan inside without saying a word. She walked in like she already knew the layout, glancing around with a tense look on her face. I shut the door slowly behind her, unsure what to expect. My head was already spinning from everything, the messages, the video, Alyssa's silence. And now this? Megan showing up, unannounced, telling me there was something I needed to know? It didn't feel random. She sat down, didn't ask for water, didn't smile. Alyssa didn't just show up here that day by chance, she said. Someone told her to come. I leaned forward, confused. What do you mean? She got an anonymous message. Said you were cheating? Gave her the exact time to come over. She thought it was a prank at first, until she saw you. My stomach dropped. But who? Megan cut me off. It wasn't just some stranger. We think it was Mrs. Thompson. Everything inside me froze. Megan reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a printed screenshot of a conversation Alyssa had received from a blocked account. The message said, "Your boyfriend's not alone right now. If you want the truth, come now." And attached was a live location pin, my apartment. I sank into the couch, trying to make sense of it. Why would she do that? What would she get out of this? Megan paused, looking straight at me. Because she's not who you think she is. And you're not the first guy she's done this to. I felt the air suck out of the room. Megan continued, Alyssa didn't tell you, but she looked into Mrs. Thompson after that day. Turns out, 2 tenants before you, both guys around your age, left suddenly. One even filed a restraining order. But the case was dropped without explanation. Alyssa contacted one of them, and he said it started the same way. Friendly visits, favors, subtle manipulation. And then when he tried to back away, things got ugly. I sat there, silent. Every weird moment with Mrs. Thompson started flashing through my mind. The uninvited visits. The personal questions. The messages. The video. All of it suddenly made sense, and yet none of it felt real. Megan leaned in. Look, Alyssa doesn't know I came. She's scared. But she still cares. That's why I'm here. She needs to know the truth, but we need proof. Real proof. Because if Mrs. Thompson really is behind all this, you might be in more danger than you think. At that moment, the power flickered. The lights dimmed for half a second. Megan and I both looked at each other. Then at the front door. We weren't alone. Somewhere in the hallway, there was a faint sound. A slow, deliberate knock. 3 times. Whoever it was, they didn't want to be ignored. The knocks came again, 3 slow, heavy hits against the door. Megan and I stood frozen, eyes locked, breaths shallow. I moved carefully toward the door, every part of me on edge. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to know who, or what, was on the other side. But I had to. I opened it just a crack. Mrs. Thompson stood there, holding a folder in one hand and wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Evening," she said calmly, like this was the most casual thing in the world. "I figured we should talk." I didn't invite her in. Megan stood beside me now, arms crossed, glare locked onto her. "We know everything," she said coldly. "About the other tenants. About the messages. About the camera." Mrs. Thompson didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped forward and held out the folder. "Then you should probably see this." Against my better judgment, I took it. Inside were a series of documents, copies of lease agreements, complaints, emails, and a restraining order. But it wasn't hers. It was filed against one of the former tenants. Her version of the story painted a completely different picture. She claimed she had been harassed, stalked, even threatened. She claimed they were the ones who became obsessed. "I've had to defend myself more times than I care to count," she said softly. "And now it's happening again." Megan looked at the documents, confused. "That doesn't explain the hidden camera or the messages." Mrs. Thompson's expression didn't change. "What if I told you I wasn't the only one watching?" A sudden realization hit me. The camera angle, the USB, the messages, it all pointed to someone who knew the apartment well. Someone who had access to Alyssa. Someone who was always in the background. My eyes snapped to Megan. Before I could speak, she sighed. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." My stomach dropped. Mrs. Thompson stepped back, almost relieved. She came to me. "Told me you were lying to Alyssa. She wanted to catch you. Said she was doing it for her." Megan's voice was flat now. "I just wanted the truth to come out. I thought if Alyssa saw it herself, she'd finally walk away." Everything spiraled in my head. The photos, the messages, the fear, it had all been set in motion by someone I thought was trying to help. Megan had manipulated everything, even Alyssa. And worst of all, I let her in. "I told Alyssa what she needed to hear," Megan whispered. "But I didn't expect her to fall apart." I stepped away from them both. The damage was done. And even though the truth was finally out, nothing felt resolved. I had betrayed Alyssa in a moment of weakness, and now everyone, felt like a lie. My phone buzzed. A message from Alyssa: "I'm outside. Can we talk?" I opened the door, and she wasn't alone. Alyssa stood there at the door, arms crossed, face unreadable. Next to her was a tall man I didn't recognize. Later I'd learned he was her cousin, someone she'd asked to come along for support. For a second, no one said anything. Just silence and the weight of everything we hadn't said hanging in the air. Behind me, Megan and Mrs. Thompson were still in the living room, frozen, like even they didn't know what to do next. "Alyssa," I said softly. "I didn't know she was behind it. I didn't know any of this was happening." "I know," she replied, her voice calm but tired. "I've had a few days to think." Megan told me some of the truth, but not everything. I had to see it for myself. I stepped aside and let her in. She glanced around the apartment like it was the first time she'd seen it. Maybe in a way, it was. Everything had changed. She didn't look at Megan. Didn't even acknowledge Mrs. Thompson. Instead, she looked straight at me. "You should have told me," she said. "About what happened. Even if it was a mistake. I didn't need to hear it from other people. I needed to hear it from you." She was right. I had kept things to myself, hoping they'd disappear. But they didn't. That silence had opened the door for doubt, for manipulation, for people like Megan to twist things for their own reasons. "I'm sorry," I said, and for once it wasn't just a word. It was everything: regret, guilt, honesty. Alyssa nodded slowly, then turned to Megan. "I don't want to see you again." Megan's face dropped. She didn't argue, didn't explain, just grabbed her bag and left without a word. Mrs. Thompson, who now looked more tired than anything, gave me a small nod and followed. No more games. No more tension. Just an awkward, heavy quiet. When the door closed behind them, Alyssa sat down on the couch. I sat across from her, unsure of where we stood. She broke the silence first. I don't know what happens next, she said. But I know I need time. And maybe you do too. We didn't make promises. We didn't force anything. We just sat there, two people who had been pulled through something neither of us asked for. The trust between us was bruised, maybe even broken, but not completely gone. At least not yet. Over the next few weeks, I moved out of the apartment. Alyssa and I kept talking, slowly, carefully, honestly. No more lies. No more pretending things were fine when they weren't. This story wasn't about infidelity alone, it was about what happens when silence fills the gaps where truth should be. It was about trust, and how fragile it really is when tested. And most of all, it was about facing the consequences of our choices, no matter how uncomfortable they are. Some scars don't fade quickly. But sometimes, facing them is the only way forward. 33.